PlayStation 5 is now 4 years old, and to this point I would say it is still the primary system that I am playing my games on, modern games, of this console cycle of this generation. So 2 years ago, I put up a video of everything that I had to that point collected physically for my PlayStation 5. And here we are another 2 years later at the 4-year mark, and I figure what better time than now to give you an update to the PlayStation 5 collection. It has grown quite a bit. I have probably twice as many games here as I did in that previous video, and there's no overlap. So if you have not watched my previous PS5 collection, I'll put a link up to it in the corner. You can watch it there. And then everything I've purchased since that video is going to be what we see here in this collection. So a bit of an update, although this does encompass about 3/4 of my library at this point. So kicking it off right out the gate, and these are in no particular order, not really alphabetical or anything like that. We're going to hop all around. First game up is Batro. This is the special edition, still sealed because I've been afraid to start this game. So huge indie hit, kind of, I would say the breakout smash indie hit of this year, you know, up there in contention with maybe Animal Well. But Batro has taken the world by storm. It's on mobile and everything now, and everyone I've talked to says that this game is phenomenal. They love it. It's very addicting, and so I have been too afraid to actually start it because I'm worried that once I start it, I won't play anything else. Although I am recording this in, you know, mid-November of 2024, so, you know, in terms of like game of the year considerations, I really should play it in the next month or so. Otherwise, I won't know if it's one of my favorites of the year. So I'll definitely check that one out. I have a lot of friends that are loving this one. It's high on my priority list. Next up here we have Sunsoft is Back, the retro game selection. So Sunsoft is a classic 80s, 90s video game developer and publisher. You know, they put out a lot of great beloved games, a lot of good licensed games back in the day. Just one of the strongest libraries and strongest outputs in the PC Engine, NES kind of era. And then that company went away. I'm not even sure exactly what happened. You know, maybe the rights were in limbo and things like that. But just recently, they have come back swinging. You know, they've have some of the original talent from back then and some new folks, and they're almost treating it like a small, like, indie studio. Like, they're putting out new versions of their classic games, obviously much smaller scale, much smaller budget, to kind of match the output from back in the day. And so as part of that, they put out this Sunsoft is Back collection, and this includes 3 of their very early classic titles, or important titles, maybe not classic to many. It doesn't want to focus there. But we've got the 53 Stations of the Tokaido, the King of Medulla, and Ripple Play. And yeah, I'm looking forward to checking those out. I like these retro collections. They're fun to poke at, fun to, you know, do a little trophy hunting on, and it'll be cool to play 3 of their classic games that I've never even seen before. Next one up here we have Rhapsody, the Moral Kingdom Chronicles. So this is localized versions of Rhapsody 2 and Rhapsody 3. So you get 2 RPGs on this one. This is another group of, like, you know, somewhat well-known vintage role-playing games. You know, these games came out in like the Super Famicom era into the PlayStation 1, but these have never been localized till now, and now we have a way to play those versions officially, which is pretty cool. Ghost Song. This is a game that I know nothing about other than I know my buddy Bomb Chop says that it's good, and another friend of mine said it was fun, Matt Quo. They both suggested this to me, and it went on really cheap sale at VGP, so I was like, you know what? Why not? I'll hop on a copy and give it a shot. I believe it's a Metroidvania or something like that. Sandland, so the open world action RPG based on the manga of the same name. I actually read the manga earlier this year, and I really enjoyed it. You know, it's kind of just a one-shot. It's fun, playful, you know, just good, sort of light-hearted adventuring. And I'm looking forward to checking out the game and seeing how well it lines up to the manga. You know, I think it would make sense to play this in the same year that I read the manga. So, looking forward to that one. Pretty recent purchase. Actually, we're kind of starting with some of my more recent purchases here up through this one. We have Devil Engine Complete Edition. This is a really good scrolling shooter. I played this on the Switch when it first came out many, many moons ago, and then This is sort of like a reboot, complete edition relaunch of the game, and obviously now it's on Sony platforms, and so I'm looking forward to checking this one out. It's nice to have a physical version of this because I've only had the digital version on my Switch for a long time. Immortals Phoenix Rising, I got it very cheap, and you know, every now and again you're just in the mood for like a nice low commitment open world game, right? Just do a little checklist gaming, run around in a nice colorful grassy plain. So I think that this one will be perfect for when that mood strikes me. I know some friends of mine have played this and they said, you know, it's no one's favorite game of all time, but everyone says that it's pretty fun. We have a horror game here, Ikai. So this is, you know, kind of like a Japanese folklore inspired, a little bit of the Ring energy to it, a little bit of Fatal Frame energy to it, horror game. I've heard that it's a little bit janky, but also still pretty fun, and that is squarely in my wheelhouse. Janky and fun is exactly where I want to be. Ooh, a couple of big Sony ones coming up here. First off, God of War Ragnarok. I quite enjoyed my time with Ragnarok. You know, I think I maybe prefer 2018 just a little bit more, but there's no denying that this was an excellent follow-up to that game. I like what they did, kind of wrapping up this current story arc, and I'm very excited to see what we're going to do in sequels. I don't want to give away the events of the story, but I think that they could go in some fun directions, and I'm looking forward to seeing what that might look like. Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut. I've gotten halfway through this game, and I was enjoying my time with it well enough, but it just was not quite my mood when I was playing it, and so I think I'm going to go back to this one at some point. I'm actually, you know, cleaning up the PlayStation 4 version at some point, but yeah, I know a lot of people love this game. I just need to be in the right mood to finally give it its due. Loved this game, Ghost Runner. Very fun first-person platformer. I'm always chasing the Mirror's Edge high, you know, from back in the early 2010s or 2009 or whatever it was. I loved Mirror's Edge. I'm always hoping to recapture that feeling, so I'm always interested whenever a momentum-based, you know, action first-person platformer comes out. And Ghost Runner did a really good job, you know, very, you know, one-hit kill type of like snappy death, snappy respawn. Feels really satisfying when you hit the different strings of moves and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm actually really interested in checking out the sequel at some point, which I don't yet own, but given how much I love the first one, why not? Froggun. This is an interesting one. It's got kind of a Mega Man Legends PlayStation 1 aesthetic to it, and it's a platformer, but it's kind of a puzzle platformer. It's more about like figuring out how to navigate these levels than it is just like fluid momentum-based platforming. Something about the way the character moves reminds me a lot of the game Chameleon Twist. And it, you know, you're trying to just collect a bunch of coins and reach the end of each of these different stages. Very fun game, you know, good, cute, kind of light-hearted adventure. I definitely recommend that one to folks. Phobia St. Dinfina's Hotel. This is one that I have not checked out yet. This is another survival horror game. My co-host and buddy Trav over on Polykill, link in the description to our podcast. He has spoken very highly of this game, and so I've always been interested in checking it out. It's always been on my to playlist for the last 2 Octobers at this point, and I just never find the time for it. We have the Final Fantasy XVI Deluxe Edition. I am a Final Fantasy XVI defender, for sure. I think that this is probably in my top half of Final Fantasy games were I to rank all of them. I really like the characters. I like the story. I think that the combat it's easy, but it's still enjoyable. And it's the type of combat system where you kind of make your own fun. You know, if you are only using the same abilities over and over and over again, you're going to get bored a little quicker. But I was really enjoying the process of mixing up my kit, you know, using different abilities, from the different summons and things like that. And yeah, just kind of experimenting. And since the game is not particularly hard, you can afford to do that usually without taking too much of a hit in terms of your ability to progress. And yeah, amazing soundtrack, very, very fun, like tense, high action boss fights. I think 16 is a worthwhile entry in the Final Fantasy canon. Although I'm also a 13 defender, so that will probably turn some of you off, and that's okay. Inscription, phenomenal game. phenomenal game. Not even one that I'm going to go into too much detail on, but if you like roguelike card games, or if you just like interesting narratives and mysteries that unfold, don't look anything up about this one. Check this out. It's got a good mix of card game and escape room type puzzle solving. Really, I mean, most people know its reputation sort of precedes it, but if you've never heard of or never checked out Inscription, it definitely has my vote of confidence for sure. Oh, one of 2024's best. We've got Astrobot here. Pure joy packed into a Blu-ray disc. I mean, what do you need me to say about Astrobot that has not already been said? Obviously, I have a lot of love and appreciation for those past PlayStation franchises. I understand that this is, you know, ad campaign marketing the video game, but I think that's okay. You know, if you understand that it's a little bit self-serving for them to put all these properties into a game really just designed to like keep the brand fresh and maybe encourage you to buy future games or digital versions of these classic games, understand that, acknowledge it, and then still let yourself kind of be washed in the warm light of those nostalgic feelings. Plus the platforming, so tight, feels so good, lots of fun, interesting variety to gameplay mechanics and stuff. Even without all that other PlayStation stuff, it would hold its own as a phenomenal game. And I think that other stuff is just additive, just to me improves the overall package. So really, really loved my time with that game. Indica, this is a very weird, I don't even know if I'd call it a horror, but it's just a vibe. It's a trip of a game. So look it up. You'll be like unnerved, off-put, interested, confused. Yeah, neat one. Saturnalia. So this is another horror adjacent game. This one's more like a roguelite where you're exploring this like ever-shifting town. I have not given like this game the time that it deserves, but I do love the vibe of it. It reminds me a lot of like a game that would have been on PS2. So, and I say that very lovingly. I know sometimes that's thrown around as an insult, but not to me. When I was talking about Sunsoft being back, this is one of the first games that they put out as a part of that initiative. Euphoria II, which is a follow-up to Euphoria, which came out on the NES. So this is a sequel 30 years later. And it's a little straightforward. It's a little bare bones, but if you want just like a really charming looking platformer with some very light gated exploration elements, check this one out. It's very low commitment. You know, it's just honestly be a great game to introduce some kids to gaming with. It's got this wonderful kind of like Yoshi's Crafted World kind of arts and crafts aesthetic to it. Everything has like kind of a tactile feel, and the gameplay itself is serviceable enough to keep the momentum going for at least a decent chunk of the game. We have Dark Pictures Anthology House of Ashes. I traded my good buddy Topspot 123 for this game. I don't even remember what I traded him for it, but we just did like a very informal sort of, you take some stuff for my doubles that I don't want, I'll take this. I like all of these supermassive games. I know that the Dark Pictures ones aren't quite up to the caliber of Until Dawn or the Quarry, but I've heard that after Man of Medan they get better, and so I'm excited to check that one out. Got the Atari 50 Anniversary Collection, an excellent sort of digital documentary series put out by Digital Eclipse, exploring like the full history and library and canon of Atari as a company. You know, what influenced them, what their influence and legacy went on to be. I hope they never stop making these. They just put out a Tetris one, and they've done some like specific games focusing on the specific developers and stuff. Like there's a Karateka one and there's a Jeff Minter one. So very cool. Sonic Frontiers. I know I'm gonna love this game when I get around to it. I just haven't yet. Open world Breath of the Sonic. Sign me up. It's got weird like screamo music for the boss fights and stuff. Like this is like a game I would have invented when I was 16. And so I'm very much down to check it out. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. I've almost played it like 10 times. A little bit of what seems to be a hidden gem kind of platformer. We have Smurfs Mission V. So I've heard a lot of good things about this one, and that's why I picked it up, and I got it for very cheap. But there's a couple of these kids games that actually turn out to be pretty fun on PS5. So check out the footage of that one, you know, go look up a trailer or something, and if it seems cool to you, check it out. Sorry that I didn't put in the footage, but when I have 70 games to talk about, I just can't capture all that footage. Judgment, this is an upgrade to the PS5 version. I previously had the PS4 version. So I've played this game. I loved it. You know, I love everything that RGG Studios puts out. They have, like, perfected their craft. And, yeah, I just had an opportunity. I think there was, like, a GameStop buy two get one, and I needed to fill the third spot. And so I picked up Judgment as the PS5 copy. Because when there is a PS4 version and a PS5 version of a game, I tend to want the PlayStation 5 version. I will eventually upgrade like I did with Ghost of Tsushima or Judgment. I want whatever the nicest version is, you know, the best frame rate and things like that. That's usually the case on these cross-gen upgrades. Road 96, this is a choice-based narrative game that I've heard a lot of really good things about. You know, most people that have played this say that it's like better than you'd expect. My good buddy Scotch and Hobbies has recommended this one to me, but I have not checked it out yet because I am not a good friend. Remnant 2, I got this one for Christmas last year and have not found people to play it with yet. So still sealed, and I'm sorry, but I've heard great things. Sonic Superstars. So if you like the 2D Sonic games, this is obviously a great way to go. This is like a modern take on 2D Sonic, which is pretty cool. You can play as multiple different characters and things like that. And if you have, you know, if you miss those classic Sonic games, or if you've just been chasing that Sonic Mania fever since 2017, this is not as good as those, but it is still fun. And, you know, I played through it several times. I enjoyed my time with it. I'm a Sonic fan. You know, I grew up as a Sonic kid, so I'm always down for another Sonic experience. We have Sea of Stars, and it comes in this slipcover and has, like, you know, this map and things like that. See if I can show you the actual cover art. Gorgeous, gorgeous cover art on that. This is the Kickstarter backer edition, if I recall correctly. And yeah, a really good RPG, one that me and both of my co-hosts on the Indie Quest podcast really loved. You're a fan, obviously, of classic turn-based RPGs, like especially Chrono Trigger, you will almost certainly find something to love about this. And they're still putting out like content updates and stuff for this. They just launched, as of the time I'm recording this video, a free update that does a lot of balancing and remixing of the combat system and the introduction of the game that helps with the pacing and makes the combat a little bit more varied and interesting. Plus they added a whole new DLC section. So yeah, really cool that they're still giving that one a lot of love, and I loved my time with it. Killer Frequency. This is a survival, well, not even a survival horror. It's more like a thriller type of game where you're trying to help keep people alive while you tell them where to go from within a like DJ radio studio. Heard good things, haven't checked it out yet. Almost played it this year, but I didn't. PS5 version of the original Quake. I had never played the original Quake. I grew up on Doom and Doom 2, and I loved those games, but by the time Quake came out, I had pretty much become a console gamer at that point, as much as you can call yourself a console gamer at age like 10. But I finally went back to this one after all this time, and I was blown away at how good this game was. I really, really liked it. Very fun on the hardest difficulty, which you have to do to get the platinum. And I can see why it was so impactful and so monumental at the time. And that's just me playing through the single player. You know, the multiplayer of Quake and Quake 2 is where people really, I think, lost their minds. So if the single player was as good as it is, yeah, totally understand why it's such a big speedrun game back in the day, why it has its reputation. It's awesome. Talos Principal 2, very excited that this got a physical release. This is the deluxe edition that comes with an art book. I just completed the first Talos Principal game this year, so this one is on the soon list, but I just didn't immediately jump into the second one. Star Ocean: The Divine Force. This is a RPG that I have not yet played. However, I'm really excited to play it because I love RPGs like this that fall into that like B tier, you know, not quite the high production value, not quite the show that like Xenoblade Chronicles is, or a Final Fantasy. Stuff that's a little rough around the edges, a little janky. Again, affectionately a PS2 style game. And I loved on PS2 Star Ocean till the end of time, so I think I'm really going to like that one when I get it. This was definitely an impulse purchase. I have not checked it out, don't know too much about it. Scarlet Nexus. I've heard, you know, some positive buzz, but I feel like at this point people haven't talked too much about it. Soul Hackers 2. I'm a sucker for any affordable Atlas RPG like this, and this one really, oh my gosh, I got so hyped for it when it first came out, and then something else came out at the time. I'm trying to remember what it was, but I was literally about to pop this game in and start playing it, and then some other game distracted me, and then like a year went by. So we have Deedlit in Wonder Labyrinth. So this is a Record of Lodos War gated exploration platformer, and I've heard so many people say so many good things about this. For a long time, this had like different versions that were like, you know, Asian English releases and things like that. It finally, through Red Art Games, just got like a proper ESRB rated PS5 version. That's the one I will definitely play, but I have not checked it out yet. The Quarry, man, I love this game. This game is so good. I never thought anything would topple Until Dawn in terms of like that super massive style game. And then The Quarry came out, and somehow I think it's even better. The way that the characters like feel like believable tropes, as weird as that is to say, because, you know, tropes don't sound believable, but in terms of a game, you know, like a slasher sort of type of energy to it, you want them to feel kind of tropey in a fun way, and they nail that here. You know, the acting is all really well done. They put you in some great tense scenarios, some really difficult decisions, and there's a complexity to the way that all of your decisions and interactions tie together or influence other outcomes that is a lot more involved than some other games in this genre. So, you know, some other games are more like, you know, try to escape, and if you fail to escape, you die. This is much more like, even if you fail, the story might progress onward, but in a very different way. Or you might die as well. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. What a great game. If you are a fan of the older Prince of Persias, if you want to like understand what the original Prince of Persia might be like if it came out with all of the accessibility features, conveniences, and modern like game flow of 2024, Lost Crown is the game for you. I think this is the best Prince of Persia game since Sands of Time, slightly edging out the self-titled game that came out in like 2007. Yeah, just a really, really great game. I also just played the DLC for this game, and it's kind of like added platforming challenges, like a little harder than the base game, which was really fun. One of the best games of 2024 as well. Highly recommend that everyone check that one out. It's very cheap these days, so go for it. Neon White, one of my favorite indie games of the past 5 years. So addicting, so much fun. Now, I think that in reality, this game should be played on PC. So why do I have a PlayStation 5 copy? Well, I wanted a representation of it in my collection. You know, I wanted to be able to point to something and say like, yes, Neon White, that game I love. But also I do think, even though I wouldn't like try to optimize my speedrun times in this version, I would like to go for the Platinum Trophy at some point. So I will definitely do that at one point or another. Tactics Ogre Reborn. Love a good Tactics Ogre game. And it's very cool that Square Enix has been like giving love to these older franchises, although I have not played that particular version. Life is Strange True Colors. I'm a little behind on the Life is Strange franchise. I think I've only played the first one, so I need to play Before the Storm and 2 before this one. I mean, they're not, you don't have to, but I might as well because I'm interested in all of them. And then the new one just came out too, that kind of follows on the story of the first one, so I'm falling even further behind in terms of Life is Strange. Oh, Fantavision 20XX. This is a PSVR 2 physical release. This is the Firework display game. So it's the sequel / reboot / alternate world version of the PS2 launch game. I love the original PS2 game. I love Boom Boom Rocket on Xbox 360 Arcade. I'm just a sucker for fireworks games, you know? Give me more fireworks games. Ever Forward. I bought this one completely on impulse when I was on vacation, actually. It was on like deep discount at a game store in Seattle when I was on a vacation. So I don't know too much about it. I think it's more like a puzzle game, but I haven't really dug into it. Dredge, you know, kind of the horror fishing sim indie release of last year. I think this game is enjoyable. I didn't love it quite as much as some other people, but it is fun. You know, I don't regret my time with it or anything like that. And it's an interesting vibe. There's not a lot of other games I've ever played that have kind of the same loop, even if that loop does get repetitive. So they also have been adding some DLC that I don't think is too substantial, but, you know, as part of kind of rounding out the entire package, it's nice to see. And if you ever can find this game for, you know, kind of reasonably priced, I think it would be a great addition to your collection, and it's totally worth your time. Disco Elysium: The Final Cut. I played this game on PC. Absolutely adored it. You know, some of the best writing of any game, bar none. You know, it's better, it's more well written than most books. So, yeah, really just a standout game. And even though I played it on PC, I would be happy to replay it someday on PlayStation 5 and, you know, try a different build or just see what outcomes happen from other decisions other than the ones I made. We have Death's Door. This is a game that's worse than Tunic. No, I'm just kidding. I know I'm going to love this game when I get around to it. I just never find the time for whatever reason. My boy Captain Drachma is probably in the comments right now being like, dude, what are you doing? But just haven't popped it in. Saving it for a rainy day, and that rainy day just keeps not showing up. Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana. I am so far behind in terms of Ys games. I've only played the first one, but this one everyone says is the best one. And for a long time, the PS4 and Switch versions were very hard to come by. And so when the PS5 version was available, you know, kind of the best version released to date, accessible to purchase, I was like, yeah, I know I'm going to play it. I know I'm going to like it. I'm going to just add it into the collection now. So I did. Wanted Dead. Give me that sweet, 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 sweet jank. Give it to me. Valkyrie Elysium. Again, kind of like Tactics Ogre Reborn. You love to see that Square Enix is revisiting these old properties and giving them the B-movie treatment. I really want to check this one out. Look at how amazing that cover art is. Worth it for the cover art alone, I tell you. But I have not played it. Undernaut's Labyrinth of Yomi. This is a dungeon crawler with some of the nicest art that you've ever seen. The back of the box doesn't really sell it, but look up some screenshots of this game. Absolutely gorgeous. Really, really cool looking. A vibe that very few other games have. And I actually really do enjoy a good dungeon crawler from time to time. So I will check that one out. Thymesia. This is a Souls-like, you know, kind of a Bloodborne adjacent game. A little straightforward, little short, a little easy, but still a fun time. You know, in terms of a lower budget Souls game, really still pretty fun. So I would say check it out if you're a fan of those types of games. Thumper. This is a rhythm VR, I don't know, industrial stress game. I've heard so many good things about this game. So many people love it so much. And when a VR version was released, I was like, oh yeah, sign me up. I know I'm going to enjoy that. I'm obviously a rhythm game freak, but for whatever reason, I haven't found the time. Now, I did just recently get prescription lenses for my PSVR 2, so I have been back on the PlayStation VR train. Yeah, like I did. I just played through all of Pistol Whip and really enjoyed that. So some of these VR games that I haven't gotten around to, I'm much more likely to start soon. Chia. This is, you know, really sweet kind of sunshine and blue skies sort of open world adventure game, you know, follows in the Breath of the Wild kind of mold. I played it day one when it launched on PS Plus. Physical release came later, and, you know, I liked my time with it, so I definitely wanted to pick up a copy to, you know, look back on fondly. Yuru Kill. This is a visual novel that I at some point I looked up like a story description or some details of it, and it looked cool. At this point, I've forgotten why I wanted it. Does that ever happen to you? Do you ever like add a game to your wish list and then years later you find it for a good deal, you pick it up and you're like, why did I want this? I know I trust myself, I know I will enjoy it, but what was the reason? We have Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So a bit of any game, you don't need me to tell you about this one. I'm sure all of you have played Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Interesting entry. I wish I had waited to play it until the PS5 Pro came out. I don't have a Pro, but once I get one, I think that visual clarity would really help, because this game did have a real Vaseline problem to me, but it continues to be very fun to follow along in the journey of these characters however many years later after the original release. And I'm intrigued by the direction of the story and the decisions that they're making. I'm on board. I'm on that Nomura train. Sign me up. Let's see what you want to do, and we'll go from there. Trip World DX, another Sunsoft game. This is a re-release of a game that came out back on the original Game Boy. It's like a colorized version of it. Really cute game. One that I've had the Game Boy version was on my wish list for a long time. So when this game came out, I was like, oh, that's so much more affordable than the Game Boy one. Let's go. Lunark. This is a way forward title, and it plays a bit like Out of This World / Another World. It's one of those like very deliberate cinematic platformers where there's a lot of like animation frames and momentum and stuff like that, and it's you just trying to navigate the world and explore. Seems like a pretty cool game. Night Witch. I believe my buddy Scotch and Hobbies recommended this one to me. Don't know too much about it. I think this is a bullet hell gated exploration. In fact, I'm almost positive that's what it is. So, Under the Waves. This is an indie title about exploring and living your life underwater, and like part of an underwater space station, underwater station. Yeah, a bit walking simmy with some exploration elements. Immortals of AVM, the magic-based first-person shooter. I know I'm gonna love this game too. I love just like a good dumb campaign like that. Just need to plug it in and find the time. Oh, Ultros, one of the like most visually intense but gorgeous games to come out in recent years. This is the deluxe edition that has some art cards. This game absolutely rules. If you like Metroidvanias, you owe it to yourself to play Ultros. It is such a phenomenal game in every aspect. Like the themes are like very resonant. It's the type of game that like you stop and ponder after you finish, and you can tie it back to like your life in a weird way. And then it has this incredible over-the-top visual aesthetic that is like almost so busy it hurts, but it works at the same time. Really great soundtrack, and one of the best, I'll say, mid-game shifts I've ever experienced. There's a moment in this game where you kind of like look down over your glasses like that, and you're like... also a 2024 release, one of my favorites of this year, hands down. Clive and Wrench. This is a real love letter to classic 3D platformers. So your Banjo-Kazooies, your Jak and Daxters, etc. Your buddy platformer. It's a love letter, but it is not necessarily the tightest experience. It's definitely jank, and it's definitely a little bit on the rough side. But if you have a love for 3D platformers, you can really tell that the developer cares a lot for them. They made a lot of references to some 3D platformers, some pretty obscure 3D platformers in this game. So probably, I would say, for fans of the genre, but not necessarily a game I'd recommend to everyone. Modern Warfare 2, the remaster, well, the modern Warfare 2. I don't play very many Call of Duty games. I play one every 5 years or so. This is the one that my brother and sister-in-law were playing, so I picked it up, and I played through, had a good time with it, played the multiplayer, had a good time with that. I don't love the fact that since this game came out, they've switched the Call of Duty so that new trophy lists are added as DLC to this game. And so I don't really plan on playing like Black Ops 6 or anything like that, and yet the trophies are being added to my profile because I decided to play that one randomly. It's a bit unfortunate. Bomb Rush Cyberfunk, the modern Jet Grind Radio, really stylish, very cool recent indie game that is a spiritual successor to those two, Jet Grind Radio and Jet Set Radio Future. Love those games, love the energy of it, and so glad that Dreamcast-ass games are still getting released. And my last one here to show is Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon, the latest Armored Core game from Software. I have not checked this one out yet. I got it for Christmas last year and just haven't plugged it in, but I, like many people, am willing to give a second chance to Armored Core on faith after FromSoft has done so well with other titles. So I've heard a lot of good things. I think I will enjoy this game. I just need to be in the right headspace. You know, you kind of got to be in the mood to tinker and, you know, build your mech and stuff like that. It's not just like a pick up and play type of game. So it's a little more involved. So I'll get around to it. And that's it. That's all the PlayStation 5 games physically that I've purchased since 2022 or so. So let me know if there's any like real strong omissions, stuff that I should be adding to my collection, but just haven't done so yet. Things you were surprised not to see that didn't show up in this video or the previous one. And yeah, let me know what your favorite PS5 games are. You're the best. Peace.